Hi everybody, Kirsty, Goddess of Neptune here. I hope you're doing well. Here to talk about Venus today, because in a matter of days, Venus will be going direct. So at the moment, Venus is retrograde along with other planets. We've got 6 planets currently at the time of me recording in retrograde, plus Chiron, because Chiron isn't a planet. And when Venus goes direct on the 4th of September, 2:21 a.m. for those of us in the UK, that will mean there's 5 planets in retrograde. So we're kind of coming out of that retrograde energy, but only slowly, because we've got the big hitters that are still in retrograde, forcing us to go within, of course, and reflect on all of those things that we need to reflect on as part of our healing journey. So when we dial it back a bit and we reflect on Venus being in retrograde, retrogrades are, of course, about introspection. It's that time out to really take stock of what we need to review, reflect, reset, release, 3 words. And depending on what planet is retrograde, and of course in astrology what house that might be in collectively, and also within your own natal chart, that's going to give some indication in terms of the areas that you need to address in your own situation. Everything is unique to us, of course, but we can have that overall collective energy as well. And I will focus on that when I pull up the UK's chart, just to give some context to the transits. But with Venus, the retrograde itself allows us to focus on love, joy, that feeling within of what makes us happy, what makes our heart happy, and also investments. So where are we investing our time, our energy, our love, our emotions, as well as where are we investing our money, of course. Let's not forget, it's part of that as well. And Venus rules both Taurus and Libra. So Taurus is all about our worth. Taurus rules the 2nd house of resources, and that's very much about investments, of course, and our resources in terms of our energy, in terms of our emotions, and where are we giving that? Where might we be overly giving that and not receiving it? Libra comes into play, and Libra is also ruled by Venus. That's the fairness, the equality, okay, the reciprocity, the equal give and take, and the justice, the balance in all of that. Libra rules the 7th house. That's relationships with people, places, things. So when you look at all of that together, and that's in general terms with regards to the astrological houses and the planetary ruler of those signs, Venus in this case, you look at that and you reflect and think, okay, when it comes to my worth and values and my resources, my time, energy, love, my money, everything like that, that I can invest in something, am I investing that, whatever it might be, in the right place? Am I investing that in the right person? Am I investing that in the right situation? Or where does it need to change? And that's why the retrograde helps us look and take stock at all of that. As well as, of course, looking at our relationships with people, places, things. So where might I be investing my time, energy, resources into relationships with people, into relationships with places, into relationships with things that's maybe not making my heart happy? So it's not bringing forth that Venus energy, and that might need addressing. So it allows us to actually take stock on all of that because it's a retrograde. So when Venus goes direct, of course, we've just had that full moon, the super blue full moon in Pisces, very, very much heightened energy when it comes to our emotions and sensitivities. And we are in Virgo season. So that's all about wanting to feel like we're in control. And we may have felt a bit out of control in the opposite sign of Pisces, where the moon was, hitting our emotions, hitting our feelings in terms of our divinity and what we need to clean up, where we need to actually bring order to situations. And Venus retrograde, as well as the other retrogrades, is totally getting us to look within and reassess where we are investing in certain situations or people, things, etc. Even investing in our own thought patterns. Let's not forget we're currently in Mercury retrograde. So there is that emphasis around communication, thoughts, expression as well. And we need to be mindful that we're communicating to ourselves in the right way. Retrogrades can feel like the energy is a bit stagnant or it's a bit slow moving. And that's because, of course, the planet has slowed down to a stop. So it is all about that kind of Let's take stock where we are, and that can be uncomfortable. So that's why the energy can feel uncomfortable, because we've got to wade through it. And then when the planets turn back on, they go direct, there's movement forward. We can then carry out the actions that we've evaluated and reassessed during the retrograde. We can then set forth on the action that we need to take. So hopefully that makes sense in terms of what retrogrades are, but particularly in relation to Venus retrograde, what that might have been showing you on this occasion. And looking at Taurus and Libra in terms of worth and values, relationships with people, places, things, and of course, recognizing our worth in all of this, and also the fairness that we want to bring into situations. So we want to invest in people, places, things that are going to be reciprocal, that's going to give us that joy back. Otherwise, what's it all for? And we want to make sure it's in alignment with our worth and values, of course. We want to ensure we're not depleting our resources, but rather we are attracting more, because we've got that abundant energy, of that Venus energy within us is exuding out in what we're doing and what we're investing in. And then we're getting that returned back. And then it carries on, it heightens that energy, but in a positive way. So let's dive into the chart. And I'm going to be careful with my phone here, because it's taken me a couple of times to record this, just because my phone holder didn't want to play ball. So okay, so Venus direct. So as I mentioned, this is coming up in a couple of days. I'm recording this on the 2nd of September, and Venus goes direct on the 4th of September. And as I mentioned, for the UK, it's 2:21 a.m. So early hours of the morning on the 4th. Apply your own time zones as appropriate. And you can see there's some lines there that I usually draw on here, just to indicate what I was drawn to when I had a look at the chart, okay? And then when I pull up the other chart with the UK's natal chart, that's going to give more context to the house system, okay? So we can see we've got the sun in Virgo, okay? And at the time of Venus going direct, the moon will be in Taurus, because the moon is currently in Aries. So at this moment in time, you may feel that you have more motivation to go after what you want, to what makes you feel good, because the moon is in Aries. Well, at this point, the moon is going to be in Taurus. And I've just mentioned about Taurus energy connected to Venus. So very much about our emotions, our feelings when it comes to our worth. And what we might have understood from the retrograde about where we have been investing in situations that have challenged our worth, because we've got this sextile going across to Saturn in Pisces, the house of the divine, where the full moon just was. So it could have illuminated a lot of things for us, and that could have been playing on the feelings, but for our highest good, because we need to be woken up to these things. We need to understand, it needs to be illuminated so that we can learn the Saturnian lessons to get in alignment with our true divinity, with our soul's truth. And we need to feel into that, of course. But Taurus, you know, knows its worth. It's that Venus energy. And we've also got Uranus and Jupiter there. So there's expansion of that energy. And Uranus is retrograde, so forcing us to go within and what needs to change when it comes to our worth and values. All of the planetary alignments are working in harmony with one another to get us to shift into where we need to be, into where our transformation needs to happen. So the sextile between the moon and Saturn, of course, positive aspect. So that's where, yes, our feelings in terms of our worth, and during the retrograde and when Venus goes direct, is then understanding how we feel about these situations and what we're investing in. And that is obviously going to be working in harmony with Saturn, because we're learning lessons. So that's why there is that harmonious aspect. We've learned those lessons during the retrograde. Now we know, okay, where might I need to invest more in? Where might I need to invest less in? And as I said, it's time, energy, resources, love, money, whatever. Okay, where does it need to be fair? So we're learning Saturnian lessons. So that's how our feelings can help us with these lessons, and vice versa, because we're being shown these things. Saturn has been showing us these things. Saturn is, of course, one of the planets currently in retrograde as well. So there's also a sextile going from the North Node in Aries, so our true guiding north, alongside Chiron, our healing journey of our sovereignty, but our true guiding north is in sextile to Vesta. And Vesta is all about the sacred flame within. So of course, you know, we're going to be guided in the direction of our purpose when we can understand what lights us up, what sparks that flame within. It's Goddess Bridget energy. So that's where that can work in harmony as well. And there is a trine from Jupiter, that expansive energy with regards to our worth and values, and hope, because Jupiter can bring hope, but I feel it's more expansion here. The trine with the sun. So yes, the sun in Virgo, we want to feel in control. We want to clean things up. We want to get things in order. Perfect season for us to understand the retrogrades, because we need to clean stuff up, metaphorically speaking. And there is that trine allowing for expansion of that in our worth and values. So when we understand this needs to be cleaned up, because my worth is this and that no longer aligns with it, I am not investing any more in that because it doesn't make me happy. Well, of course, that's going to expand our soul. It's going to allow for that cleaning up energy that Virgo is calling for in a grounded way as well, because we've got Virgo and Taurus, that's earth energy. So we've got our feet on the ground. We know we're being realistic. What needs to get sorted? And what do we need to remove our investments in, reduce our investments in, or increase our investments in? So that expansive energy is going to help our soul. And also the soul essence being in Virgo is going to help the expansion of our worth and values as well. It's a two-way thing. Okay. And I will just point out the challenging energy that's between Pluto and Ceres and the South Node. And Ceres and the South Node are in conjunction here, both at 25 degrees of Libra. So, of course, I've mentioned about Libra being one of the signs ruled by Venus. So that fairness and that justice and that balance that we want to see within karmic situations that have been coming up for cleansing. So South Node can relate to that within our foundations, can be challenging when it comes to transformation, but ultimately Ceres is there. So rather than it, being a kind of negative energy, because squares can just show that there's a challenge, we know there's a lot of other stuff going on to help expand our soul and the changes that we need to make. But it can just mean that there's still some karmic stuff that's coming up, challenging the transformation, because we want that expansion and the nurturing of the cleansing of the karma to bring about that fairness and that reciprocity and that justice in our own lives. We've got Mars in Libra as well. So that is all about the masculine drive of wanting to get things done. And Venus is in Leo, so fire energy, so going after, having the courage to go after what makes our heart happy, what brings that joyful love energy, and then the masculine drive of bringing the fairness into it and the balance, as well as the other stuff we've got going on. So what I'm going to do now is just stop sharing that one, and I'm going to pull up the other chart, which is based against the UK. Okay, so this gives context. So the inner wheel is the UK's natal chart. The outer wheel is a screenshot, freeze frame, whatever you like to call it, of the cosmos at the time of Venus going direct, 2:21 a.m., 4th of September. Apply your own time zones as appropriate. And this is to give context to the house system. So what we've got is we've got the sun down here in the 3rd house for the UK. That's about expression and communication. Okay, so we're really needing to get things in order, Virgo energy, when it comes to our expression and communication. Mercury is right alongside the sun, of course, in retrograde. So we are being challenged on that. But, when we think of that soul energy and Mercury being there in terms of communication and expression, what is it we need to communicate to ourselves in a fair way and a grounded way to understand what we truly need to clean up? So this is about having truth talk with ourselves. We need to have that truth talk. What do we need to get in order? What do we need to sort out? Virgo, what do we need to do? And remember, for those of you aware of tarot, the Hermit card as a major arcana is representative of Virgo energy in tarot. And the Hermit is all about going within, introspection, utilizing that wisdom of the soul and understanding what is needed after that introspection. So like a retrograde. And then using the lantern to light the path forward, because you've understood, it's been illuminated and there's been that enlightenment, and that can light your path forward. So it's all about, Virgo season is all about that kind of energy, but to get things in order. We want to feel in control though. And that's where sometimes if we're being asked to go with the flow, it can feel challenging because the Virgo energy wants to get things sorted. We need a bit of both. We do need a bit of both. It's that 3D versus 5D aspect that I've mentioned before. So yes, Sun in Virgo alongside Mercury in the 3rd house, we need to have truth talks about what needs to be cleaned up. That trine is going up to Jupiter in the 11th house for the UK. So that's to do with connections with other people. So there's great expansion of where we can clean things up, where we can get things in order with other people. That's going to be harmonious for us with regards to that Venus energy, but also with regards to our worth and values. And that's where Uranus is calling for change. So this is all part of the change that needs to happen within our connections with others, whatever connections they might be. Okay, the challenging energy I mentioned with Pluto and then Ceres and the South Node, yes, within our foundations, you know, anything karmic that's been coming up that needs to be transformed, Pluto energy can be quite challenging at this time because it is that truth talk that I mentioned. And then the sextile that we've got going on between the Moon and Saturn and the North Node and Vesta. So first of all, the Moon is in the 10th house of inner authority, also relevant to work as well, if this is resonating for you. This is where Chiron is in the North Node. So it's all about the sovereign journey of our inner authority, the empowerment. And because the Moon is there, but in Taurus, because we've got partly Taurus, partly Aries there, this is about our worth and values again, and how our feelings and our drive, our motivations, further to the Venus retrograde particularly, can then benefit the lessons that we've been learning from Saturn. And Saturn is transiting Pisces in retrograde at the moment, of course, in the 8th house of power. So it is all about our empowerment, our personal power, and how we can move forward, learning those lessons of Saturn, getting ourselves in line with our spiritual truth, and how that feels when it comes to our worth and values, what changes need to be made when it comes to our worth and values that could have been challenging our inner authority. Making those changes, again, investments, where are we investing our resources? We're learning the Saturnian lessons, and we're understanding, we're becoming more empowered as a result of that. And then the North Node across to Vesta is in the 12th house. So the 12th house is the subconscious house. It is the deep, you know, it's the spiritual house. It's ruled by Pisces. And, you know, Vesta is there in Gemini. And that's very much about the inquisitive nature of things, you know, so we might not fully understand what sparks that flame within. We might have a good idea of what it is, but ultimately what does spark that flame within that we may have understood from the Venus retrograde and the other retrogrades and how we feel about certain things is helping guide that path forward in terms of our empowerment, in terms of our sovereignty. When we can understand what does make us happy because of the flame that is lit within us, you know, having that creativity, having that passion for something or someone is going to light us up, and that's going to guide our path forward in terms of sovereignty, being that warrior spirit of going after what we want. That's why there's that harmonious aspect, and it's helping our healing journey because of Chiron being there. Also in relation to sovereignty, but for the UK as a collective, you know, Chiron is also in the 10th house, but in Taurus. So it's been challenging our worth and values when it comes to our sovereignty, and that's part of the healing journey on a collective level. But again, where is Chiron in your chart, and how does it marry up with the transits of this particular time? Because that's going to give some interesting aspects of what's going on. Okay, and I have mentioned before about Mars, the Mars energy, which is down here in Libra, also in the 3rd house. So again, you know, having the drive, having that masculine drive within to have those truth talks with ourselves when it comes to expression, 3rd house, of course. But Mars in the UK's natal chart, there's an exact conjunction going on between Vesta and Mars in the 12th house. So there could be a lot of that inner drive within, and the curiosity of what actually sparks the passion within, or the curiosity to learn more about what is making us happy, what is lighting that flame within. But it could be going on a deep-rooted subconscious level. And that could be why, you know, we're sort of being asked to reflect on all of this during the retrogrades, of course, but to understand that that is helping us navigate our journey forward to our true north. Because when we can understand what it is that lights that flame, what makes our heart happy, we can then take the necessary action for ourselves in terms of the masculine essence within, but we need the feminine energy within, and that feminine energy for the UK is in the 11th house. So it does very much relate to connections with others. This does relate to inner authority, our power as well, and our expression and our communication, but there's a lot of deep-rooted hidden stuff going on as well because of the houses that I've mentioned. And Pluto, also in retrograde, is in the 6th house. So this is about, you know, where our daily routines and schedules need to change in accordance with what lights us up, because perhaps we're doing something that doesn't light us up, and now we need to make a change to invest more Venus energy, to invest more of our time, energy, money, whatever it is, in the things that we do want to do. So our daily routines are going to change, and that can be challenging, especially if there's the karmic stuff, as I mentioned, within our foundations. We want to lay the stable foundations, the true foundations for us, but we need to shift away and detach from what isn't true, what isn't a stable foundation for us. Could be an illusionary foundation, and that can be hard. Detachment can be hard if we've been attached to something that's not been serving us for a long time, and that super blue full moon may have actually brought that to the surface for a lot of people, so it can be uncomfortable, and that's why there's a square, because of the challenge to the transformation that's needed. Okay, and what I'll end with is just to say that when Venus does go direct, she's over there in the 1st house with Juno, so there is feminine energy there. And, you know, Venus in Leo, very much that expression of who you are, and not being afraid to show, to be seen for who you are. And that comes from, you know, loving what you do, loving who you're with, loving X, Y, Z, whatever it is. I'm investing in this. I love it. It sparks that flame within. It's empowering me. It's meeting all of those things I've mentioned. It's making Saturn happy. It's making Pluto happy, because I'm cleansing karma as I'm doing this, because I'm understanding what patterns don't serve me, and I'm understanding the patterns that are more for me, you know, which could be a complete step out of the comfort zone. But all the while, this is about the house of the self, the 1st house. This is fire energy for Venus, but expressive energy of the soul, because Leo in tarot, the Sun card, the most happiest card in the deck of Major Arcana. So this is about showing yourself with that full embodiment of soul essence for who you are, what lights you up, what makes you happy, what brings that joy, what brings that love, where can you show that love, the abundance, all of that energy. So this is happening in the 1st house of self. This is about the self. And I'll go back to the fact that Virgo is very much hermit type energy of introspection, in order to understand what needs to be cleaned up, what needs to be put in order. And this is because I've mentioned about the house of the self. It's on my mind because the hermit card is one person. It's the hermit, often in a cave. Okay, so we have to go through some dark times to get to the enlightenment, because that's when the lantern comes out and the hermit can make his way out of the cave, path forward, north node, true north. But that reflective time is alone time. Virgo season is also getting us out of codependency as well, because of everything else that's going on. So I feel very drawn to saying that. That could be a message specifically for a few of you out there. But this is about the self, because Venus goes direct in the 1st house for the UK, the house of the self. So what have we learned in terms of ourselves? Where might we have been codependent? We're trying to break away from that. This is our journey. And it's very important to bear that in mind. The wisdom comes from within. Okay, we can be guided. We can be guided externally, but ultimately the answers are within us. So it's important to just remember that as well, and reflect on that as part of the hermit energy that Virgo can bring as well. Okay, so let's stop sharing. And what I'll do, I would just pull a card from the Moonology deck. Okay, this is the original Moonology deck, because we've just had that full moon, full moons. Okay, just to see if there's any additional messages for the collective based on Venus going direct. Okay, what does the collective need to know, please? What does the collective need to know, please? That one wanted to come out for sure. Wow. Okay, we actually have a super moon card. Thank you, Spirit, for that. Emotions are running high. Yeah, so after that blue super full moon that we had, 30th or 31st of August, depending on where you are in the world, emotions could be running high because it's been illuminating what does need to change. And of course, it happened in Pisces. It's the opposite sign to Virgo. Push pull within our emotions, within wanting to feel in control, and maybe our emotions are taking us out of our comfort zone because we're having to feel where change is needed. If we don't feel where change is needed, how do we know change is needed? And on the bottom, a fiery climax approaches. Ooh, and that is full moon energy also, but it's in Aries. So that's about that drive to take action, to move forward, to be motivated, to have that passion to go after something. But ultimately saying that, yes, okay, it might be that our emotions are running high, but it's going to bring us to the end of something in order to start something new. Aries is first house energy, as I said, the self. Okay, so it's recognizing that that's very important. Okay, that the endings are happening in terms of cycle endings in order for new cycles to begin that serve us, that are more in alignment with our spiritual truth. It's all about that. And underneath that, we have bring love into the situation in reverse. So we do need to bring that Venus energy to the foreground, okay, to bring that love, to manifest from a place of love so that we have that reflected back. And underneath that, expect powerful change. So when we can bring love into the situation, we're coming from a place of unconditional love, but also knowing where we want to invest from a place of love. You know, what do I enjoy? I want to invest more of my time in that. What don't I enjoy? Less time with that. We're doing it from a place of love for ourselves and our worth. And then we can expect powerful change. And that's eclipse energy. And we're going to be moving into eclipse energy. Okay. So it could be that this is about now laying the foundations for the change that's going to be coming in the eclipse season, okay, as part of this transformation journey. And I got these out earlier from my Astro deck, which I love. Venus, you know, just to actually show you this artwork on this card. Okay, absolutely beautiful. But it says on there, beloved. So let's remember that we need to show that love to ourselves, of course, to other people as well. We need to come from a place of unconditional love, even in challenging situations. And also when we're looking back on situations that may have been coming up, karmic, past life, this lifetime, you know, previous connections, whatever, previous situations, because they've all taught us something. Remember, I just said, if we don't feel uncomfortable or we don't feel that change is needed, how are we going to know that change is needed? We're just going to be plodding on in the same way. We're evolving. This is about evolution and getting us more in line with what makes our heart happy. So leave you with that image. And I'm sending you all the best. Okay, happy Venus Direct on the 4th of September. And then, of course, after that, the other planets will then be coming out of retrograde. I'll be doing further reports on those. And you will feel that kind of, you know, clunking into gear of the movement forward. But take stock during the period of retrogrades. It's all for our highest good. It may feel slow. It may feel meh, but we need to go through it. We need to be like the hermit and go within. Okay. In actual fact, I say that, and I'm being a total Pisces now. And I'm just going to spontaneously find the hermit in this one tarot deck. And this is my sovereign deck. So it's very appropriate, isn't it, for what I've just been saying. I wonder if it's going to be the last card. What do you think? But it's a time to take stock. It's a time to take stock. It's like enabling us the chance to hit the reset button, but to understand why we need to. That's what the retrogrades are there for. There we go. Not quite at the end, but interestingly, 10 of Cups is underneath it. Whoop, whoop. That's all about emotional fulfillment and happiness, love. So here's the Hermit in just one of my many tarot decks that I have. This is the Gilded Tarot Royale, or my sovereign deck, as I like to refer to it. So you see, it's the Hermit on his own, coming out. And he's actually on a bit of a bridge there, isn't he? But, you know, he's got that lantern that's lit. He's gone within and understands the wisdom of what these retrogrades have told him. It's Virgo energy. Virgos like to hermit. I'm a Pisces, but I've got a lot of Virgo in my chart, and I can relate to that. But as a result, I've got a lot of push-pull energy within my sort of essence. Sometimes I'm up there in the clouds, other times, you know, I need to be brought back down to earth, and vice versa. So this is about us lighting our path forward and understanding why we need to get things in order. Very, very important to recognize this is about the self. This is about going within as the self, okay? And cleaning up things that need to be cleaned up for ourself, getting things in order. Feeling in control, like the Virgo energy calls for, but not being controlling. Feeling in control by taking the steps necessary that's needed, okay? So there we go. I'll leave you with that. Okay, and I wish you all the best, and I will speak to you soon. Love and blessings, everybody. Take care.